Hey everybody, Rich Munroe here with BNB Investing Group. Thanks for jumping on this week. As you guys know, BNB Investing Group helps new investors navigate the short-term rental space and understand the different nuances, whether you're managing properties, doing acquisitions, or the master lease rental arbitrage strategy. And so a big part of growing a scalable business is utilizing a channel manager and what's called a PMS. And so I've got my friend John here today that's going to kind of walk us through strategically some of the products that Direct provides that kind of helps short-term rental hosts and managers kind of run a scalable business. So John, thanks for jumping on today. And if you could start out, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. My name is John Stokinger. I'm the Director of Sales for Direct. We are a property management software. I've been in the short-term rental, vacation rental space for 7 to 8 years now. Always on the vendor side. I have not dipped my toes in on the investment or the property management side personally, but I have been on the vendor helping out property managers and investors for quite a bit. My journey has taken me from payment processing is kind of how I stumbled and fell into the industry. I was working for a payment processing company that specifically works in the lodging industry, and that's kind of how I fell in love with the people and and just the space in general. And I've had a couple different roles from there. I did a little bit with some visual marketing, worked for a couple different property management software companies. I was a senior solutions consultant for an enterprise company. I spent a short time at Hopper. I was the first sales hire for their homes division with Hopper, and I had an opportunity to come over to Direct and help them join their team and lead the good property management software fight.
Very cool, very cool. That's awesome. So those of you that just jumped on, if you wouldn't mind throwing a quick yes in the comments if you can hear us both okay. Just want to make sure we got our audio straight. And so John, so let's just kind of break down the basics. I'm fairly new. I've got a couple listings set up. I'm on the Airbnb platform and I'm generating revenue. Walk us through kind of strategically what is a channel manager, PMS? How does that help us? What are some of the different things that provides us as options to grow our business?
Yeah, absolutely. So a property management software, there's different tiers of property management software. A PMS allows you to manage your housekeeping, your maintenance, to pay your vendors. It allows you to go ahead and see your calendar and your reservations. Part of some of these PMSs are a channel manager option. Some are more robust than others. And then there's also just plain channel managers that live alone, and that's all they do. A channel manager is usually, if it lives alone, it's a middleware. So there's a software that manages your all your operations, say, and your all that, and then the channel manager could be a middleware that allows you to distribute your inventory to not only whatever the software distributes to. So maybe a property management software only has, say, 5 direct connections with your Airbnb and VRBOs and does all this, but then you want to go ahead and bring in more connections. You can attach an additional channel manager to that software that allows you to distribute to all the channels or more channels. Did that answer your question?
It did. And so it's really two different things, right? You've got a channel manager and then you've got a property management system. Property management system helps you do a lot more things functionality wise, besides just placing your listing on multiple platforms. And there's obviously Direct. Can you walk us through kind of how Direct helps in that space?
Yeah, absolutely. So Direct is a property management software that does. I use the 5 example because that's what we have. We connect to the 5 top 5. So your Airbnb, your VRBO, your Booking.com, your Google, and your Expedia. By December, we're adding all the others. That's that's down the road. So we're actually working with a channel manager, bringing it in house, and making direct more, enabling our clients to go ahead and diversify their distribution a little bit better. But a property management software in direct, what it allows newer or anybody that's coming into the space that's managing multiple units to work under one platform instead of many different platforms. And that's kind of the issue when you're coming on with, say, an Airbnb or an Airbnb and vrbo. Now you have 2 or 3 units and you're like, okay, I'm managing 2 units here on Airbnb and now I'm managing these on vrbo, but now I have to sync my calendars. Oh shoot, I want to go ahead. What, I can connect with Google? Oh, no way. Okay, great. So now I want to do that, but now I have to go ahead and then I'm going to potentially do some like an iCal link and bring those all together. Oh, and now I got to coordinate my cleanings, and it gets really confusing. So a software like a property management software like Direct allows you to do all that all under one roof. What differentiates, say, Direct from some of our competition or some of the other ones that you hear about is that Direct is very, very transparent. It's super simple to use. It's intuitive. So if you can work Airbnb, if you can do Instagram and you manage that kind of stuff, Direct just makes sense. Things are where they're supposed to be. Some of this other software that's out there is like, we're going to try to throw everything into the software and make it as everything under the roof, but they don't necessarily all talk well together. They don't necessarily all work well together. And maybe you can get to something like 5 or 6 different ways that, so when you're growing and scaling, and then you want to go ahead and teach your team how to do it, someone might teach them how to do it one way and another person might teach them how to do it another way. And it just gets really, really confusing. So simpler, the better. And we really focus on that.
Okay, awesome. No, that makes sense. And just from a simple standpoint, so if I've got my listing, all number of bedrooms, number of beds, the description, kind of all the pictures, I can basically click a button and add it to a new platform like a Google or Booking.com or Expedia, and that kind of gets pushed out to those platforms, so you're not duplicating efforts when you set up your listing.
Yeah, and some of the good software and what we do at Direct, we have bulk editing capabilities too. So if once the property management software is your truth, right? You work out of there, you build your listing, and some of that building is automated now. So for example, we are like a couple of weeks away from being able to push a button and bring, if you're not on any PMS, and bring your Airbnb listings in and completely build out your listings. I mean, we're super close to that. And then from there, then it's in Direct, and then you can just push buttons to distribute to all the other ones. And the nice thing is all your calendars sync automatically, and it is super, super simple. But the bulk editing capabilities, say you built everything out and you're like, oh shoot, we're actually gone ahead and we've added this new amenity or this new pricing feature or a new season for our pricing. You can go ahead and edit it in one place and then select the properties you want to go ahead and push that to, and it will automatically push it just to the ones you want to. So you don't have to do it. If you have 20 properties, in a lot of software, you have to do that 20 separate times. Mm-hmm. But in Direct, you can just push a button and it will do it once.
Okay. And then as far as guest communications go, I'm assuming you guys have automated messaging that you can customize.
Yes, sir. Well. So automated messaging with that communicates with both Airbnb and vrbo. So it's a unified inbox, allows you to go ahead and so you don't have to go to Airbnb for that pre-stay communication. Everything can be done right in Direct. So again, I think where it gets daunting, the scaling aspect of scaling your business and growing gets daunting is when you're like, I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off and I'm only have 3 properties. I couldn't imagine having 19. You were there, like you've scaled there, you've done it, and it's scary if you haven't done it before. And the software and the automations and the triggers and the different things that if this happens, this will automatically happen. When someone checks out, what ends up happening is a clean is automatically generated, so that your cleaner is notified that there is a clean that's checking out at this time, and that they need to go in and clean it. And not only that, a good property management software will allow you to also pay that cleaner, because right through the software, so you don't have to go out and do all these different things.
So that's a good point. So you do have a bookkeeping component to the software.
Absolutely, yes.
Nice. That's a big one. So, for those of you that are just starting, think about on a weekly basis when you've got to pay on, call it 60 properties, and you've got multiple cleaners in different markets, you've got multiple handymen and laundry service. And so you've got all these vendors you've got to pay on all these multiple properties. And to be able to synchronize that directly with the platform is huge, because it just becomes an accounting nightmare to keep up with otherwise.
Well, and it ties it in, Rich. To take it a step further, is not only you're able to pay, but your homeowners, if you're in investment, and these aren't all your own properties, right? You're actually property management. And now they're looking they want end of month statements. They want to see what's been done in their software. They want to know who you paid, how much you paid, why you paid. By keeping this all in house and tying it all together, you're going to be able to, at the end of whenever you're running your reconciliation for the business, you're going to be able to, your owner statements are going to push out, and it's going to show everything that was done. Because what ends up happening is not only you set up your owners as users in the system, right? So you could set up your splits or whatever you said. So, and for those that are new here, if you're wondering what splits are, Rich, when he manages for other people, a percentage of the cut goes to him and the rest goes to the homeowners, right? So you set that up in the system, and then that all automatically happens. And then, you're going to set vendors up in the system too, and you're going to set them up with like EIN numbers. So for tax purposes and everything as well. So that they've been paid, and then your homeowners are now knowing that this is what has been done. There's a little bit of a learning curve to it, but once you get it dialed in, it makes that scaling isn't so daunting anymore.
Yeah, totally agree. Now, what about the financial reporting aspect? What are the options there for reporting?
The nice thing with Direct is we have tons of canned reporting that are available for you. So you can go in and you can get all your reporting to every single aspect of the software. So you can look at your reservation reporting, like all your accounting reporting. There's a general ledgers, and you can set it up in trust with trust practices. And today I would say that there is no property management software that is a true trust accounting system. There are some that work better than others. We are trying to be, and are very close to being, one of the top, if not the top. That's the goal by fall. But those that call themselves a true trust accounting, I think anyone's pretty much lying, because to operate in trust when you're working between, separating your operations from your actual software it's hard. It's a little different. With that said, I've kind of gone on a tangent. I lost where I was. I apologize.
So the reporting was kind of the question. So
yeah, absolutely.
Reporting.
Tons of reporting available in-house. The nice thing is we're an open API, so we give you access to any of the data in the software. So if you want to run, some BI tools, and you want to get in there and do whatever, the data is yours.
Okay.
You can build your own.
A big part of onboarding new platforms like a VRBO is figuring out the payment processing, which is already solved on the Airbnb platform, but on a lot of these other various platforms, they rely on you as the owner or the manager to figure out the payment processing piece. Is that something that's built into Direct as an option, okay?
Yeah, it's all built in. So the nice thing and in most of the softwares that are solid are going to have you be able to set whatever set it up how you'd like. Who's the merchant of record? When are payments remitted? Is it paid at booking? Is it made are you paying at checkout? Who's collecting the taxes? All these can be set up in this system. Additionally, you're going to be able to set up fees and recurring fees, and those are kind of your taxes and everything set up. So during an implementation process, at least with Direct, you're going to go in, you're going to have your handheld and set it up alongside you, making sure, and we're going to test and retest to make sure everything in all your channels is working correctly.
Okay, cool. Now, from your experience, and obviously, been in this space for quite a while, if I'm looking at maybe the top, call it top 5 platforms I need to focus on trying to get to, what would you recommend would be a good starting point for that?
As far as
the where to place your listing, right? So Airbnb, VRBO are kind of the most popular, but what are some of the other ones that you would recommend somebody?
I think Google's a no-brainer, and not everyone's doing it. It's newer, and it's doing well, and it's free. So if your property management software has a connection with Google, make sure you're utilizing it and you're setting it up correctly, because it just drives into your booking site. So again, this is direct bookings. I would encourage every single person that's listening or watching this or whatever you're doing, set up a direct booking site. If you're only relying on Airbnb or only relying on Airbnb and vrbo, you're shooting yourself in the foot and you don't realize it yet. You don't work for you work for Airbnb, you work for vrbo. Figure out how to go ahead and get a direct booking site. And it doesn't have to be like there's some like hashtag direct booking movements going along where they want you to go ahead and they're encouraging you to be 100% direct booking. I think that's BS. Yeah. I feel that, a favorable split would be, anywhere in the 60-40. If you could figure out how to go ahead and get 60% direct bookings over time, and what happens if something terrible were to happen to Airbnb or something terrible happen to VRBO, at least now you have 60% or 40% or 30%. But if you have 0 direct bookings, the direct bookings, your guests are you can go ahead and retarget these guests. They come and stay with you. You get them on an email list, so I think that's probably your number one channel. Does
Direct help with that process? Do you help capturing customer data and guest data?
100%. On top of what you get a free direct, well, not free, it's included in what you pay for implementation, but we build a direct booking website for you as well. So that coordinates equally with your Airbnb.
I would hope so, with your name being Direct, right? Absolutely. I would hope that's part of it.
That's how it all started, right? The whole focus was, direct and then it's evolved from there. We realized we need to diversify our offerings for, outside of the top 5. So that's, a new focus of ours. I think that there's some, depending on who you are and where you are, that you're going to find outside of your Googles, your direct bookings, your Airbnb, your Verbos, depends on your market. You can do well with Booking. You can do well with Expedia. Definitely. If European market, you're going to crush with those. The Booking, you have to be careful on more fraudulent charges. So it's a little wonky, but once you figure it out, and certain markets do better than others. So I would look into it, but just keep an eye on it. And some of these other channels, like the Whimstays and the Hoppers, depending on your market, and the Marriott Homes and Villas, you can really crush with. But it depends on your market and it depends on your inventory.
Got it. And then, so the Direct website is a part of what you guys provide. What are some of the other things that come along with signing up with Direct?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're going to get your, fully set up in the system to however many properties you have. It's a true transparent pricing. So when there's a 350 minimum. So, someone with 1 or 2 properties, that might seem like a lot of money, But when you get 5 or 6 properties, 7 properties, now you're like, oh, $350 a month. That's not too bad, because it actually, of all that you get with it outside of it. But the nice thing about true transparent pricing is when you're scaling and growing, and I'm not sure what your situation is, Rich, with your software, but there's a lot of softwares where you're like, all right, you're going to pay, this is your onboarding fee. And, to get the best rate, you're going to pay a year up front. Okay, great. So I'm going to pay a year up front, guessing where I'm going to be in 12 months. And then, all right, I'm guessing I'm going to be, say I have 40 properties, but I think I'm going to scale to 60 properties. So they're going to try to charge you for that 60, at least half of them, but then you only get to 47 at the end of the year. Then you want to try to hook that, but it's a mess. Mm-hmm. So a big thing of a big push of what we're doing now is true transparent pricing. On the first of the month, we're going to go in and look exactly how many listings you have, active listings, not just active. You can have 170 listings on the software, but only 47 are active for that month. So we're pulling 47. But then at 50, it goes down from $35 a unit a month to $30 a unit a month. So that, it's really simple. So you can know exactly what you're going to be paying every month. It's not going to ebb and flow based on a percentage of revenue or anything like that.
So it would cost $350 up to 50 listings? Is that what?
No, it's $35 a unit a month with a $350 minimum.
With a $350 minimum.
So when you hit 11 properties, now you're paying $385. When you hit and then $410 and so on and so on. All right.
And is there an onboarding fee or no?
There's a slight onboarding fee. Yeah, it's dependent on, we have some demos, but then we have some conversation, but it's depending on how much effort that we need to do. Are we building a website for you? Are you willing to go ahead and do some of the stuff on your own, or is our onboarding team doing everything for you? But it's very, it's very fair, and compared to most, it's inexpensive. It's not free, but we're not giving it free, but at the same time, you get a lot for what we're giving.
Got it. All right. Well, I'm going to throw your website out in the comments below. And then if anyone's interested in kind of scheduling kind of a demo with John, reach out to me and I'll do an introduction. And then that way you guys can kind of benefit from the BNB Investing Group's volume and folks that we're going to send your way. And so the other thing I wanted to chat with you about, John, you also co-host a podcast called No BS Short-Term Rentals. Yeah. So I'd love to hear an update on how that's going and kind of, what you guys typically talk about on the podcast.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So I co-host the No BS podcast. It was the No BS Short-Term Rental podcast, but we got rid of all that extra words just to make it a little bit easier. So it's the nobspodcast.co. I co-host it with my good friend and brother, Mateo Bradford Vasquez. We've been doing the podcast now for over 2 years. We've just recorded our 107th episode, recording our 108th episode on Monday with Rob Graber, CEO of Vacasa. So we got the first podcast interview that he's given is coming to us. So we're pretty excited about that. But it's an unfiltered look at the short-term rental and global hospitality industry, focusing on news and culture. So if you're afraid of 4-letter words coming out of my mouth, I'm probably not the best. It's probably not the best podcast for you. But at the same time, it's truly we ask the questions that others don't. We try to be fair and honest and unbiased, while getting some of the best interviews. It's a focus for founders and owners. It's not a tips and tricks podcast. You're not going to come on and learn how to make $1 million, using your iPhone. That's not what we're doing.
All right. So having your finger on the pulse of doing the podcast, what's your outlook really for the short-term rental market, call it for the next 12 months?
I feel that it's come back down to earth a little bit, right? Everyone got like amped up and pumped up. COVID was like, oh shoot, everything's hitting the fan. We're in trouble, and then quickly it switched to, wow, this is a gold mine. This potentially could and is the best years. Like 2021, 2022 I don't think we'll see growth like that ever again. It's because of that growth, we have a ton of inventory. All that inventory, if your inventory looks like everyone else's inventory, I feel you're not going to do great. I feel like, how do you differentiate? How do you stand out in the crowd? I think these are where you're going to see wins, because there's a lot of inventory, and we're seeing across every market that when people we're talking to, if you're not using being on top of your pricing and understanding what your market's doing and what's working and what isn't, if you're just very static and status quo, was like, last year we got this much and there's no way I'm going to get lower than this bar that I set for this weekend, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
The opportunity is still there. It's not going anywhere. I think in certain markets there are even doing better than they were last year, but those are few and far between. I think that overall you have to work a little bit harder, or let's be a little bit smarter with your inventory and how you're distributing it and how you're comparing to. You really got to pay attention to your market.
Yeah.
Be successful today, understand what your competition is, what they're doing, like know them in and out, know their homeowners, like those homeowners that are your competition, you want them to be your homeowners. Like, how do you, how do you get those homeowners to be unhappy with their current property manager? Well, show them a better solution.
Right.
Show them better results. Have case studies around this. Show, hey, we've brought on 20 units and they're doing this, whereas overall in this market, this is the average. But with coming to Acme or whatever company that you're running, this is what we're seeing across the board with true data that doesn't lie. You're going to be successful.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think in this environment, you've got to have a differentiating factor, and as well as, like you mentioned, being flexible on your pricing, with a combination of those two things. And so, that's part of what we focus on, setting up units and kind of teaching folks how to do this. With everything that we do is based on getting that 5-star review, because that's really what's going to differentiate you from the others and, show that quality guest experience. And so that's really what you got to focus on. You can't just simply list it on Airbnb and make a bunch of money like pre-COVID. You've really got to pay attention to what's going on with your competitors, like you mentioned, for sure.
If you're dealing with, the other thing I want to put out there, if you're dealing with homeowners, like you're a property manager, you're not just a host, you're dealing with homeowners, and expectations need to be set from the beginning. Like, I think that's where there's definitely a disconnect with property managers and homeowners, because they're so eager to get their first or their second or their 10th or their 20th homeowner into their program, that like expectations aren't necessarily set. And, expectations on, like quality, want just any home, right? Like that home represents your business. The expectations need to be set of what is expected at the end of every year. If there's wear and tear, this homeowner's is going to need to take some of that 80, 70, whatever percentage that the split is, and put it back into their property, and maybe write that into the contract. There needs to be an understanding, but by showing that and setting these ground rules from the beginning, they're going to see that you mean business, and the results are going to be there because they're keeping their properties up to date. You're staying true to what you're saying. And then as you scale and grow, don't be afraid to every year, get rid of 10% of your inventory, your
Yeah.
worst 10%.
Yeah.
Like dump it. Say, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, like you didn't meet our standards. You're gonna have to go find something else.
Yeah,
And
it's tough to do, but it's a necessary element to grow successfully. It's the 80-20 rule, right? So you got 20% of your lower performing properties that you're spending 80% of your time operationally on. And so those are the ones you really have to, you have to kind of do that. You have to fire them and keep it moving, give them a 30-day notice and keep going, because, you know, you're going to burn up a lot of time unnecessarily with the bottom 20%. So that's definitely a good suggestion there for sure. So any other, before we kind of close it out, any other last minute things on direct that we should know about that we haven't already covered?
I think the interesting thing with direct is, I guess the biggest, it's not necessarily on direct, is for any software, is that if you're looking for software, don't go on a Facebook group and see that, hey, what's the best software out there, and take like whatever some Joe Schmo is suggesting, because they're going to just say whatever. They're going to say, there's like 3 or 4 that everyone on all these huge Airbnb Facebook groups say. Demo software, actually demo, actually, everything works different. You're going to find, and when I'm on these groups, I'm always saying, well, how many properties do you have? Where are you located? Like, no one asks any questions. They just go, what's the best property management software out there? Well, it depends. It depends on you. There's so many variables. It all depends on, like, if you're 5 properties and that's all you're ever going to be, I'm probably too much money, or I'm too much software. I want to say too much money. It's still only $350 a month, right? But I might be too much software for you. But like, if you never want to scale and grow. But if you're 5 properties, but in 12 months that you're going to be 15 properties or 20 properties, like some of these other software that everyone's suggesting, you're going to outgrow that software quickly.
Right.
You're going to get to a point. So I think that do your due diligence. And for me, selfishly, I just want direct to be part of the conversation.
Sure.
So if you are looking at software, I just want to have a conversation with you. If I'm not a good fit, or direct isn't a good fit for you, I'm fine with that. Maybe you're not a good fit for me, and I'm okay with that too. So I think that's the last thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. And I always tell people, whether it's, channel managers or price optimization tools, do the demo, because a lot of it has to do with personal preference too, right? It's like buying a house. Like, I like the blinds a certain way, or I like the deck to look a certain way. It's all about the look and the feel and how comfortable you are with the software, because you're essentially going to be using that on a day-to-day basis. And so the only way to determine
take
that
it a
is to
step
do
further,
a demo.
Rich, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm going to. To take it a step further, look at the customer service. Like see what that is all about, because you know what? Something's gonna break. I don't care what software you're in, something's not gonna work right. And you're gonna be in a predicament, and you're not able to accept payment, or you have a double booking. Like, there's no perfect software. And when that shit hits the fan, how responsive is the customer service team? How respectful is that customer service team? Do you have an account manager? Can you reach somebody on the phone? Is like, these are questions you need to know, because it's at some point you'll be really stressed out, ready to rip your hair out, because and does the software point fingers, or did they just fix it? Right? There's so many different pieces when you have channel managers, and you have pricing tools, and you have locks, and all these different things that talk with the software. Oh, that's not our fault. That's their fault. Well, it's somebody's fault, and that's okay. Own it, and be like, hey, I'm not sure why this happened. It could be on us. It could be on so-and-so. Let me go ahead and take a look at it. Those are the kind of people you want to work with, not finger pointers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Totally agree. That's a great point, because you don't want to find out how that works until you're already a customer. By then it's too late.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Well, John, I really appreciate you taking the time today, buddy. It's been great catching up. And like I mentioned before, if you guys are interested in scheduling some time with John, just reach out to me through Messenger. Let me know. Also, again, with BNB Investing Group, if you want to learn more about how we help new investors, same thing there. Just reach out to me on Messenger and we can schedule a quick call and see if it's a good fit for you or not. And John, I'll definitely catch up with you at the next event, or hopefully the next time you come down to Atlanta.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And if you want to check out the software, the website, yeah, definitely go through Rich if you want to reach out to me. But if you'd like to check out the website beforehand, it's just directsoftware.com.
Yep, and I'll put it in the comments below. I also put your podcast link below as well. And so definitely everybody check out John's and Mateo's podcast. I've had the pleasure of being on there. It's been a while, so hopefully I get another invite soon. But they do a great job. Yeah, they do a great job with the podcast. So definitely stay tuned and check that out as well. So thanks again, John. Appreciate it. Take care. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.